Hey everybody, it's Simon Williams coming at you with another video from Northeast Christian Apologetics. I have you with me out on the trails again. I haven't been doing videos in a long time, so I thought that I would do one, and it's going to be a pretty short one this time. Just going to talk about the word God a little bit, and I'm probably going to elaborate on this more in the future, but basically there's a lot of different ways that people can understand the word God. Some people understand it as far as like Greek mythology or Norse mythology, or they understand it in terms of some sort of great thing. Like I'm a Super Smash Bros. Melee fan, and years ago there were like the gods of Melee, and that would be like Mango, Armada, Hungrybox, PPMD, those kind of people. And they were like unbeatable, so they were called the gods of Melee. But and that's all. Those gods I've just mentioned are the type of gods with a small g. And something interesting to note about those kind of gods, like the gods that have like extraordinary abilities, or people that are so much better than other people that they seem to be in a class of their own. Those kind of gods are able to exist in a naturalistic framework, as long as they don't transcend the physical world. So, and by physical world, I've explained this before, but what I mean by the physical world is space-time, matter, energy, anything that can be described by theoretical physics, that kind of stuff. So the multiverse and that kind of thing. So like those small g gods are able to exist in that kind of framework. And but when we as Christians, as particularly myself, talk about God with a big G, this big G God is a title, actually. It's not just like some sort of name. It's it's a title depicting how great that being is. And there are also attributes that for the Christian that are tied to a being of that nature. And when we say God with a big G, that title is like God of gods, like King of kings, Lord of lords, and God of gods. Like this is a being in such a class that he transcends the power and majesty of other gods. So when a Christian talks about the Christian God, we're talking about big G God. And there's some, so when we explore what it means to be a big G God, we're talking about, a lot of Christians are talking about, including myself, a being that is maximally great. So this would be like, it would have the greatness of the other beings, but in a magnitude higher or stronger or better. Okay, but in addition to that, from a theistic Christian standpoint, we're talking about a God that transcends the physical world. So from this perspective, a view like naturalism is unfeasible, because since the physical world is transcended, that means that it's not all there is. There's something beyond it, namely God, at least. But from a Christian standpoint, we see the world, how reality is actually constituted, in a different way. We think of God as the foundation or bedrock of all reality. Like, ultimately speaking, God is reality. God with a big G. And then after that, lower, he created what Paul called the third heavens. And this area is like the spiritual world, where all the angels reside. That's where heaven is, his throne room, and all that stuff. And then within that as well is the physical world, and that's smaller, and that resides within the spiritual world. is a small part of it. No matter how big it actually is, it's just a small part of the spiritual world. From a Christian point of view, God is not some sort of like additional entity that you add on to the physical world. The physical world is something that you add on to God. God is not some additional component to the physical world or reality. He is reality. Okay? And that's a big distinction. And when somebody questions that and they're like, I don't think that you have justification for believing that, that actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what somebody else, if somebody else thinks that you have not yet demonstrated that your beliefs are true, it's not a showstopper. You have to talk to them about it. Like, why do you think that? And if their criticisms are valid, then maybe you should consider it further. But just because they think that you haven't done enough work doesn't mean that your worldview is wrong. So the benefits of having God as the ground of reality is that it has a lot more explanatory scope and explanatory power than a world that's limited to just the physical world. Reality that's limited to just the physical world. And we're going to be exploring that more in the future. And I've been exploring that a little bit in my Tuesday morning apologetics on the website. And I just want to make that clear to you guys that it's not like Christian theism is competing with a worldview like naturalism, where naturalism is just reigns supreme. It's not like that. Naturalism has a lot of problems too. And they're competing worldviews, but one of them is more limited than the other, necessarily, and it just is. It can't be less limited than the Christian worldview. It's more limited than the Christian worldview in every respect, and we'll be exploring that later.